Welcome back to the World Championship 2023 of Netrunner here in Barcelona. My name is Andre from the Match Ball Grid.
And I'm Captain Nice.
And thanks so much for joining in. This is the lower finals. We're down to only 3 Netrunner players from 257 that showed up just a day ago. We have Odol versus cableCarnage. Again, both players, they're on their last life here. Whoever wins this match goes up to the finals, gets to play against our reigning world champion who is staying there, trying to hold that title. So this match obviously going to be incredibly important. And these are some wild decks we've seen. So Odol, I'm not sure if we've seen this deck on stream. Actually, we did earlier today, but this outfit deck is fascinating because while we've seen some very common outfit decks throughout the last continental season, perhaps things with big deal, fast events, biotic labor sneaking in, this is entirely different. Captain Nice, what can you tell me about this list? There's some meat damage going on here.
There is a lot of meat damage going in here. Like, notably, this list is on 3 Angelique. This is a very new card that allows the corp to do meat damage from hand or on the table.
Yeah.
It's also on Cityworks project, which is an agenda I haven't seen in forever.
It's a public. You install this one, it comes in face up, so players are going to have perfect information about the one running into. It does 2 meat damage plus an additional for every advancement. So if you install advance, the runner has to take 4 meat damage to steal it. There's almost no meat damage protection in this entire meta right now. If you can put that with Angelique, Garza, Correa, that's going to be 6 meat damage, and of course, too big to fail into punitive counterstrike. That is a lot of money you can leverage into a lethal. This is going to be quite scary.
This is going to be very scary. Also notably in the list, 3 Under the Bus, another card I haven't seen in a long time.
I'm not sure exactly what this is teched into. I'd be really excited to hear why Odol is playing 3 copies of this. On its own, it is actually a way to get bad publicity without engendering too much interaction. Again, regulatory capture is showing up into this list. That is a fast advance piece that becomes a 2-2 as long as we can speed run that for bad publicity. And as much as possible, the faster you can get to game point, the faster cableCarnage on Sable is going to have to interact and risk those punitives. That's something we've seen before. Risking is incredibly important. You have to force the issue.
Yeah, in that sense, it is good value. Actually, you're getting 2 credits off of playing this and you get the trash summon. There is a decent amount of valuable connections in the game. Film Critic, notably out. That's the one that
that's classically the one, right?
That's the one you would classically trash with this. But yeah, if you're playing Film Critic and at this table in this round, probably not a good deal.
I think the only connections that we're going to see again, cableCarnage on what I'm assuming is going to be some sableCarnage. We're on, I think, 2 connections. We have class acts. That's usually a 2 or 3 of. We have a 3 of in this list, and then just a single Missed Bones. The Missed Bones not very important in this matchup, very important on the day. So we're going to see some very strong criminal aggression. Again, cableCarnage from the Snare Bearers. A lot of the Snare Bearers brought criminal aggression to this meta, understanding that we thought there were going to be a lot of assets. This is, what they were saying, the Snare Bearers, but also very good into some tag stuff, pretty good into HB as well. And those were really good calls today at the event. So we'll see if they keep the hand again. The mark, we're going to shuffle that back. Criminal aggression, getting those accesses, it can be tricky. There is an illicit ice. Allowing those relatively cheap, those subsidized res to get to the 4 bad publicity can be pretty tricky. It's hard also sometimes to diversion of funds down a too big to fail. That's a 10 credit econ card you play on 0.
Yeah, and then what do you like about this matchup? I actually think that the outfit might be one of the more difficult matchups for Sable compared to, as you were saying, HB, those asset spam matchups. This is actually one of the more difficult ones that Sable can face against.
It's strange. I think the data suggests that the criminal matchup into some of this Wayland stuff is actually kind of favorable. It's just a bit of that aggression. It's the tempo, like the diversion of funds helps. Maybe it's a bit different in op than it is into the outfit, but I'm very excited to see how this aggression plays off. I want a very conservative start for the outfit. Again, against Sable, you want to hunker down a bit to make sure it's not free value town. So we're getting some ice. Those are smoke sleeves. Those are pretty sick. Never seen those before.
Me neither. Those look great.
We're going to open up with a sure gamble. I think our mark, I'm not exactly sure what we rolled there, but I don't know if we're going to pressure into. Again, one of the big ice you have to worry about is Trebuchet. That card says trash anything if a subroutine fires. That's a 6-strength sentry. Now this criminal, like most criminals, are only running 1 of each of their breakers, and their breaker suite Echelon and Unity, those don't scale up too well aggressively into the early Villain Chow, into the early Trebuchet. This can be a tricky early game to maneuver. You're largely relying on boomerangs to challenge.
And now notably, outfit is above the 6 credit mark. Trebuchet costing 7 to res.
Yeah.
Now at 10. So now all the dangerous ice is going to come out.
Trying to be aggressive as a criminal, you run into a Valen Chow and all the subroutines fire. It's rest for free. That is the exact opposite of what you're trying to get done with that single run here. Double ice on HQ. Again, you're seeing these players that top cut really respect that that boomerang and diversion, that classic doom or boof. So we'll see here again, Odol. Does Odol have to build a remote server? I think he does. However, it might not be the conventional remote server. Eventually, it might just be an Angelique with the CityWorks on top of it and leveraging credits. Do we have some wild ice? Is this the data loop list as well?
This is the data. It has 3 data loops.
Oh, so cool. 7 credits for this barrier with an on-encounter text that puts the cards from your hand back on top of your deck. So good luck. Maybe, again, buy a Benz, just hit the bin, but that's the only card I think you can have to run and get card advantage. So another piece that leverages, that makes that punitive a lot easier to land.
Yeah, without Hunting Grounds, not a whole lot that deals really well with a Data Ward. Hush, notably, is a really good card against Data Ward, but...
Just Arisana is, I don't know if Arisana made the top cut, made the top 16. I'm not exactly sure, but we haven't seen her on camera in a minute.
Arisana has been underperforming a little bit. There were a decent amount of the tournament, and I don't think there was one in top 16, or maybe there was one?
Maybe, yeah, it might be. It's hard to say right now. Daily Cast, mind you, coming down. There's a Chesva as well. That cup of coffee, once you start rolling again, that gives you the credits to be putting on pressure. We have a no free lunch as well. The tags won't matter so much. The 3 credits clicklessly. I think we've been towing 1 Ari in the cut.
There was actually 1 Ari in the cut.
Oh,
yes.
Really well done.
There is a Doof in hand, but that's going to be really difficult considering there's 2 eyes on HQ already. And
Odol pushing in the remote server. What we're expecting there, Spin Doctors, largely Rashidas. On advanced cards, there's no advancement acceleration. You're not seeing a seamless launch into an Atlas with a token. I'm not sure what the range of options can be here.
There is an Above the Law in the list, a really good agenda, of course, but you're not too afraid of that gets trashed. Yeah, you might lose your no free lunch, you might lose your daily cast, but then again, it isn't the end of the world if that happens currently. Checking the remote.
Checking the remote server, that's the Valenchao. That's going to be rezzed entirely for free. So first up rezzed for 6 if I'm not mistaken, you get 3 back, or sorry, for 5, 3 back. And then again, you'll get 2 more credits back when that subroutine fires. So you get that credit advantage. Now that's the first bad publicity. For those watching at home, we need to count to 4. 4 is that magical number where the regulatory capture, a 6-2, drops down to a 2-2. We're at 1 already. Now, a lot of times, especially once we get to that 3 bad publicity point, you'll see the runner slow down, and they'll actually set up a bit and want to sweep HQ before they allow you to res that 4th illicit ice. And I'm really interested to see if cableCarnage is going to avoid installing the Class Act, just so you don't have access to the under the bus. Such a wild line. But Pinhole threading into Archives, it's a Rashida, taking that down for the bad publicity. Cable going to keep that on the table, of course. What are the marks? Are we missing the marks here?
I think there is a token in front of R&D.
Oh, yeah, right on. There's a die there.
It isn't very clear on the play, man.
Yeah. But both players clearly communicating it for sure.
Should have asked the players to use the cards.
Oh, we love the cards. The cards are so good. Drawing up. Cable has to be very conscientious of how the draws and how Odol seems to be kind of dealing what comes into his hand, because a lot of times the outfit decks, they can sort of brick in the early game. If you're drawing a hand of regulatory captures after a mulligan, those just don't go anywhere, and so you see a lot of decks just like drawing into fast advance pieces. That's not exactly this deck, but you have to keep in mind that there are just some bricks in the deck that you can't deal with for the couple early turns.
So we see a double ice on the remote.
Red means Archives on the die, I'm pretty sure.
I think so, yeah, and the token seems to be in front of Archives.
So
also, Trima Virus means that Amakua is going to be really bad in this matchup. And Amakua, you really need that to get those nice breakpoints with that really high-strength ice. But with Trima Virus, that is going to be near impossible.
It's such high breakpoints, mind you. 2 of the big ice you're playing around in the matchup is 6 strength. With Trima Virus, man, what a call. And we're going to boomerang onto the Valenchao. We might see a charge here. Not committing any breakers means you're not too worried about the Trebuchet. Maybe you lose the Hermes, I think, is the worst case scenario, unless Odol really wants to take the daily cast down to cement the credit advantage.
Yeah, I think the Hermes trash here would if that is a trash, it would probably be the correct trash.
Hermes,
see what it is.
Mind you, 3 hostile takeovers in the deck. Another bad publicity and econ card does slow that down.
There's a Bravado.
Bravado into the remote server. The outermost, just a border control. That's going to get 2 credits back. Mind you, one of the strongest standard ice in Wayland. This is not op, but you'll still be very happy with the ability to end the run on the remote server at kind of your command. So how do we get through that? We have 1 Kurapir in the deck. The Boomerang, while it is unique, you can install the second stranding the first. It will be trashed. But otherwise, you need an Amaku at 1 strength. This server is going to look pretty steady for a while. There's always something really interesting of how much you want to pressure central servers. With 1 ice on R&D, there's a chance that you just don't pressure it specifically so that when there is a hostile scored, you have an open server, and it's hard for Odol to score a hostile and to push in. But Rashid in the remote server, 3 cards, 3 credits, and it's a Mystic Miami, mind you, a catch-in alt-art.
Very popular in Criminal nowadays because it just has so many good events. So the Mystic Mimic does get splashed for the 2 influence. I've seen lists with 2 copies. I think this list is on 1 copy.
It is on 1 copy, but it's on 2 copies of the twinning, which is the big reason here. Mystic Miami and Paladin are in the list. Whether you want to compare Mystic to a prepaid voice pad, I guess that's up to you to decide. But the big thing here is twinning is the multi-axis in this list. We're not on legworks. We're on wake implants and 2 twinnings. So you talked about the above the law. There's always a fear there. If you're kind of banking on a big twinning, you can't cash out soon enough.
We're seeing a push in the remote here.
Border Control to Valenchow, icing up archives as well. We haven't seen any of the good payoff cards for the runs. No bankrolls, no Amakuas, no leeches. Not sure that's in the list. I don't think it is. So it's hard to get good value here. Info Bounty, mind you, as a 2 in the list is probably what you were looking for.
The Marcus R&D.
We'll see if we get our first check here. The credits on Odol are a bit hard to read. Some of those are slightly bigger. Those are the 3 credits. So
yeah.
I think we're probably a healthy above 10. Daily cast into Earthrise, just sinking your credits into late game or mid to late game value.
We've been seeing a lot of lists actually dropping the daily cast in favor of more run econ. In this matchup, the daily casts are actually great because that's a lot of money and you won't get a lot of value out of your runs. So this allows him to build up a little bit, get his money going until he's ready to start charging. But it is a bit slow, like, oh, and we're seeing a score here.
There's an above the law, advance. The daily cast, you just spent 3 in it. That's 11 credit swing if you want to see it that way.
Oh, down the drain. But getting the Hermes trigger, and R&D is now wide open.
Yes. We don't have huge ways to pay off. Again, no R&D multi-axis here. We'd love to roll that die and roll that green beaker just to go in there. Get it to be a bit sweeter for you.
I'm sure cableCarnage would love to see an access here and get an agenda and bounce another ice. Maybe, like,
yes,
open up the service a little bit.
R&D is the mark there.
That is great.
This is where you can get a dirty laundry if you have it. Bravado needs some ice for sure, but
he will get to see more cards. He has the Earthrise.
Powering him up. Cards, if you see that are trashable, you have the Chesva and the bad publicity, so you can go back and see deeper. There are a couple trashables. We talked about 3, Angelique. I believe she's maybe 2 to 3 to trash. Not too expensive. We can definitely work through those. Of course, spin doctors are unaccounted for. Mystic 2, you love to play a run here. We have 3 dirty laundries.
Info Bounty not bad here.
Yeah, pays for itself on the run. You have to be a bit worried. What happens if you steal an agenda? None of these agendas have additional costs. You find a 3-pointer if there's double punitive, but is only a border control. Info Bounty taking the 2.
This might be one of the only times he gets like real value out of that Info Bounty for most of the game.
It might be hard. Now, the breakers that Cable has access to do scale into the mid to late game. We're talking about that Echelon. We're talking about the Unity. As long as they survive the program destructions of maybe an unfortunate run, you have okay runs into some of the bigger ice, and that's an Amakua coming down. We'll see how long that goes without getting perched up. Again, 3 virus, and of course you know that, but it's actually a very difference in this meta as opposed to pre-rotation, where there was actually cards that made having an Amakua a drawback with IP block that you'd actually want to overinstall it. But you can keep the turtle around as just another value program that eventually will become a threat, eventually will become a problem. It gives you value from running your mark, so you don't mind having that in your back pocket, even if it might not be useful. As much as it does contest right now, at least the border controls relatively easily.
Yeah, there's still a couple eyes that are standard legal that punish AIs, but they're kind of not that great. IP block was the one that was splashed out of faction, and it was just like so incredibly hard to deal with. Just like on encounter tags, incredible.
We'll see how that goes here again, drawing up into the dirty laundry. Just 1 ice on R&D. We'll see here now, Cable.
I saw 2 diversion of funds in hand. It's going to be also really hard to get value out of that.
Yeah.
It's going to be so incredibly... It's going to probably cost more to run HQ than he will get back money-wise with the diversion of funds.
Dirty laundries into archives. I love this. You're pretty sure you can't get through the ice. I don't know if you're expecting a trebuchet there, but the idea is that this card was entirely free anyways with Mystic Miami. There is some, value spent from it, but you need to spend the credits off Mystic Miami this turn somehow. So we'll see. No res.
That's one of them viruses accounted for.
Yep. You still get the Amakua counter after you end the breach step, but you definitely can't be farming there anymore.
And notably, Amakua can break border control.
Yes. You can charge the remotes over here. That card, was it added last turn if I'm not mistaken? Otter Companion, she's also come in. Paladin Puemo. The whole family will be here. There's no Taka. There's no Fueno. Thank you, Fueno.
I did see Fencer Fueno at 10 credits this weekend, and I was afraid of it stealing my balloons, but I don't think there's a Fencer in this list.
There's no Fencer in this list as much as,
what a shame.
Baya bans. So now we'll see if we can charge the remotes over. Another nice way to deal with Valenchow, mind you, is just like having cash. The bad publicity does help. It does count itself during the run if you haven't spent it. But we're on only 6 credits. You talked about this before, the daily cast. As much as we lost one, there's almost no card in the card pool on the criminal side that gives you credits without you need interaction. So you lean on these things like sometimes you saw fermenters, liberated accounts. You don't really see telework contract, daily cast. Those are really important.
There are literally criminals that will import liberated accounts just to get the 16 credits without having to interact.
It is a different spot here, and now kind of glaciered up, if you want to call that.
Talk about Glacier, third ice on HQ.
That is some good respect here. In terms of the ice we're expecting, again, Valenchow, Trebuchet, border control. The other stuff is the magnets, the data loops, and that's actually all the ice in the deck. There's just 3 of everything. Just max quantity, add to shopping cart, let's go.
The list also plays triple data loop and triple magnet, really respecting certain matchups.
That's a lot of money, mind you. 7 credits is not exactly the sticker price you're playing on a Trebuchet, but you are going to pay that upfront for the data loop.
I've heard a lot this weekend. I've never played the matchup, but I've heard that outfit is really vulnerable to Arasana in particular, so that 3 magnet to really respect that matchup.
Yeah, Arasana with all the 6 strength, the slap vandals, the hush, it can be a very difficult matchup, and Claude as well. So here Odol needs to set up a way to push in the remote server. That card in the remote hasn't gone anywhere. There's a chance it's an Angelique just setting up her sniper's nest, and eventually we'll see once we have the credit differential, we'll go. But Bravado on the remote server, Amakua. Or 2 bad publicity. There was a too big to fail, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, there was a too big to fail. So that is essentially free to break the border control, getting a lot of value out of Bravado.
The server was just a virus. We found 2, and...
Oh, no.
While it does purge the Amakua...
And he has to...
You do want to trash it there for 1, so it will purge.
Yeah, so Amakua now at 0. Sad turtle.
From here, though, now you're lowering the possibilities of what can be in the remote server. So at this point, again, the only other upgrades in this deck, if I'm not mistaken, is just Mavirus, 1 more copy, and then everything else is just Correa. Now, specifically, Angelique is unique, which means you can't stack a bunch of them in the same server because her text says that it only fires if she's rezzed, which is a nice way to force that interaction. It's not like the old Prizek where you could strap down 3, pay 6, do a lot of damage, a lot of tags. There's only 1 Correa. So see Odol.
But Correa and double advanced City Works in the remote will do 6 meat damage.
It's a lot of damage.
And then there's the punitive next turn to contend with.
Yeah.
So just pushing that out and forcing the issue is a very real way to try to score, to try to finish the game.
Now, players that are forward thinking, one of the tech cards you have for that, if you want to call it a tech card, is you can plan that turn. You know you're going to have to deal with City Works relatively soon in the game, is you drop a Class Act, and then you run. And Class Act at the end of your turn draws you 4 cards, so it's the closest thing in faction you have to a Diesel, and is a card you can get out of your hand while also securing the draw later in the turn.
You've seen Class Act a lot, also to survive cheeky urban renewal kills.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a common use for it, and it's really fun to realize that your value draw card is a bit of damage protection.
Anarchs have steel skin, and criminals have the Class Act, and Shapers have other ways.
They have a stone ship, I guess.
I haven't seen a stone chip in a while, personally.
It's been a minute. Now, Kurapira is coming down. The twinning is those 2 faces on the altar. That's another Katchen. That now we can actually start farming Kurapira counters. It's kind of interesting here. You're putting your bad publicity into the break fully the border control to put onto Kurapira. In terms of the barriers, that now allows you to bypass the data loop. That gets by the on-encounter effect. That's actually a really important interaction in this matchup. But Hostile Takeover going to score. We're at 3 bad publicity on 3 points as well. That's going to be 7 credits, 10 credits for the outfit, but we now have only 1 ice on HQ. The big thing here is that we haven't found our killer yet. We haven't found the Echelon.
Yeah, there's only 1 ice on R&D currently. And they had to fast advance that from hand, so that does mean that R&D is looking pretty decent. But if it's
you can't afford, it's a trebuchet, right?
Yeah.
It just throws you out of the game when you lose your Kurapira.
You need the boomerang. If it's a boomerang, you can definitely try to charge this. If not, no, you can't risk it.
Yeah.
We're getting to a point like 3 bad publicity at 4. He will be able. There's still 3 regulatory captures in the deck.
It's there, Echelon from hand for 3 credits. Now that's going to come in. Another nice use of the Amakua. Code Gate Breaker is what we're missing. It will be 3 strength, so you have to boost still for 6 credits before starting to break subroutines. Bad publicity helps, but at the end of the day, it's still some money.
The coffee will also help, but it's still...
Oh, coffee, yeah. And there it is, just a Valenchow. So Valenchow forces you to lose credits. You can't spend the Chesva credits on that.
Nope. But the bad publicity will definitely help to determine how much money the runner has versus the corp. But the corp has I can't tell, but has a lot of money.
Now that is rezzed for free again. 5 credits, 3 bad pub. We're now at 4 bad publicity. This is so important. Now if Odol has the regulatory capture, she's threatening to win in 2 turns. As much as you have to maybe brave the storm of the Hermes, here we're going to mutual favor out. Going to go find that unity. Nice synergistic combo here. You have Amakua maybe for the early game, and you bridge that to the mid to late game. Power of the Shaper system gateway breakers that care about friendship.
And with the full breaker suite and the bad pub, Unity actually deals with this ice. Oh no, there's the first regulatory capture.
That's the first red cap. This game could be over in 1 turn. Odol, if he has another one again, it's just a 2-2 from hand. Criminals are not known to stop fast events besides economic denial, but on this board state, it's quite difficult. Mark is R&D. You can get some access here. At this point, too, you have to consider locking the top of R&D.
I think he has to. It's going to be expensive, but he can do it with 4 bad pub. It costs, I think, 5 to get past it, so only 1 real credit.
Now, we haven't even installed the Unity. I believe that was pulled there with the mutual favor. That's going to come in cheaper with the Paladin Puemo. We can look at 3 with the twinning here. But if Odol just has it in hand, that's it. Now, that's coming down. If you can get a nice run here, Mystic Miami is...
If he gets 1 or 2... Imagine if he gets 2 agendas.
Yeah, he's doing HQ. Running on the Valen Chow. Bad publicity and coffee. There's no way this is going to actually touch the credit coffers.
Would love to see some great accesses here.
We're going deeper in. We'll see the cards again. Twinning finally paying off. I love this multi-access card that just charges up in the background while you do your thing that you wanted to do anyways. Unity boosts 1 for 4. There's 2 more regulatory captures. That's obviously the name of the game here. Nothing on the table. You know there's no spin doctor. There's not going to be an R&D lock or an R&D shuffle break, excuse me. Off the top, just a magnet. Seeing a bit deeper. We can't see that one. Looks maybe like an operation. And 3rd one down.
Nothing.
Nothing for Cable.
Good thing to know, though, there are no agendas coming up, so that does mean if Odol doesn't have the win in hand, Cable is fine for at least a couple turns.
Yeah. Amakua going to get a counter, but yeah, totally if it's not in hand. And there's other ways out of this. Double hostile is a possibility. But inside job on HQ, understanding you just have to get in now. You just have to start sweeping. So you have more twinning counters. You can see 3 from HQ. This is a really good run. So now Odol understanding. You have to float 2 credits if you want to close the game here. This deck has no audacities. There's no actually fast advance tricks besides the inherent regulatory capture text. There's 2 in a row to stop inside job. You have to res 2 in a row.
And this ice is incredibly expensive. Even though he's going to get the refund from the bad publicity, there is a chance that he's not able to res both of them and still fast advance.
We're in. Twinning, we're using 2 power counters. We're going to see 3 cards here. Build your own legwork. Now, if Odol has that regulatory capture, pulling it from hand, as you said, we know it's not on the top of the deck. The game's going to be a fair bit longer, which definitely favors the criminal here. First rip, magnet. We're going to go deeper here again. Out of 5, we're going to see most of this. Second, punitive counterstrike. You expect that to be lurking in the shadows. 1 more. Which smoke do you flip? Oh! Regulatory capture, finding it. Does Odol have the 3rd one there in hand? But such an important steal there. cableCarnage pulling back from losing the following turn. Such a fantastic line having an inside job. We can see a bit into Odol's hand. I think that was the only agenda. There's 1 card there we couldn't fully see. Bouncing there too. The companions getting a bit richer as well.
This is incredible. I thought cableCarnage might have been out of it, but that was so important.
That twinning again, exactly well timed. Seeing the top of R&D and HQ now. If that one of those unknown cards is not the last regulatory capture, we have quite a game that Odol might have some issues closing in.
Yeah, he needs to think, so it's clear he doesn't have the win in hand. So that means if cableCarnage can keep the top of R&D locked, then he might have a chance here.
Keep twinning. Mind you, twinning is not a connection, so it can't be under the bust. Above the Law is already scored out, so it's going to stay pretty on the table for a while now. We know it's some magnets coming up. We didn't see the next 2 cards, but an ice definitely going back here. This is the point, too. Without regulatory captures, with 2 out of the game, bad publicity is now just money for the runner. And like a lot of money. Criminals want to run.
Yeah, he has to win. He either has to find the last rec cap or he has to find one of the hostiles. He could try to go for a hostile Cityworks project, but it's so difficult to try to push that.
Yeah, on 2 points too. As soon as you hit 4 points, which means you'd have to take the last regulatory capture, you no longer have the punitive threat.
Yeah.
Like, that's very notable, as the punitive threat does close. 16 minutes in the round as well. Odol up on 5, Cable down on 2.
We see no free lunge.
Just a 3 credit play here.
Charging HQ.
Border control. Kurapira charging itself again. The data ward's looking worse and worse, unfortunately. The data loops, excuse me. And there's the final Valenchao, resed for only 2 credits. It's hard to count the credit pool, but the bad publicity does help. Again, flipping it over to remember what you've spent so far. 5 bad pub. It's very important to understand the bad publicity you get, you have it, but it doesn't create credits until the start of the next run. So coffee and a bit of code. We're going to get through here. Not a huge incentive to do any twinning accesses.
But just building up those counters to get like a really nice deep dig on R&D later in the game.
So Cable, every turn you want to install something, you want to play an event. I think Mystic Miami too. You either lose a card from hand if you can't play an event this turn. Criminals don't struggle too much with playing the event, especially with 5 bad publicity. Full Breaker Suite assembled. The walls might be closing in. Magnet, no surprise. I think you're expecting 2 in play. Magnet, mind you, we break for free.
Yeah.
Boost and break has no relevant text in this exact matchup.
Yeah, not relevant here.
Amaku also charging up. When Amaku hits 6, none of the ice matters. And we've seen with 2 of them, viruses, maybe running archives is a bit of a difficult choice. That's a bravado. Where are we going? R&D? We know the card here. This is just a fun run. Rezzing the Trebuchet, 6 bad publicity in. Now Trebuchet is one of the more expensive ice for this rig to break again. We're now at 4 strength in the echelon. You have to boost only once. So I think it's through 5 credits altogether. We're still just playing with bad publicity. We're playing with house money.
And now we check out and we get all the Bravado money. Or do we actually? We've
seen the card.
We've seen the card, so we just check out here.
Yeah, you're going to get 1 more credit if you pass the Valenchao, but I think you pay more than 1 credit. The Chesva's already been used, so it changes it. I'm not sure if you need to go in much deeper here. That should be enough. Oh, we're seeing 2 cards. Off the top.
Angelique, hedge fund.
Hedge fund, yeah, leaving it. That was an Angelique, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That is a trashable card, mind you. Her trash cost can't be more than 3. So that card, you can get installed. You can start doing some damage. It's a bit of grind. It's hard to make this an attrition matchup. But now with Kurapira, again, charged up entirely, we're bypassing data loops. It's so wild. There's like 1 barrier in the format that has relevant bypass text, and we found the matchup.
Yeah, it's just incredibly nice that this deck has both data loops and border controls. Border control with the bad pop, just charge it up for free, and then pass the data loop for free as well. This is
Older drawing up. That should be the hedge fund now. The top of R&D is entirely fresh. Now, if Odol spends a whole turn drawing, Cable has a hard choice. Whether it is you use your 120 counter per turn to flush HQ, or use your 120 counter to see more on the top of R&D.
Surely you keep R&D like properly locked here. It isn't that expensive.
But you can break it. You can only see 2 a turn, right?
Yeah, it isn't that expensive currently.
Too big to fail. But so say you see the top 2 of the deck, right? And then Odol spends his turn, mandatory draw, draw, draw. There's now 2 cards unknown in hand. If one of those is a regulatory capture, you lose the game.
Right.
So it's hard to figure out where to put the multi-axis. It's only the twinning, and you only have 1 twinning charge. So you probably have to always see the top of R&D, which you can. It's going to be relatively affordable, and then spend the multi-axis on HQ. That's my guess. Well, see, the border controls matter too. Not that it interacts with the twinning in any sort of meaningful way, but it can stop a well-planned turn.
What he can do is run HQ first action, see if the border control gets used.
Yeah.
Because that indicates that the win is probably in HQ.
Something. I don't know if you can ever spend the border control unless it's a mind game. It's such a hard spot to be in, saying like, hey, no, nothing in here, go away.
And it's not like with the turning wheel where you could actually spend the border control after the tokens had been used to try to actually make sure that the multi-axis gets worse. Twinning doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
We are 7 bad publicity in. It's hard to see the runner spending credits. We're going HQ here. Now we have to play an event to turn or install.
Oh!
City works.
City works.
5-5 now. 12 minutes left in the round. Bouncing one of the cards that you're allowed to bounce. Punitive, it now becomes a threat. Odol, we saw 1 in hand. The credit differential, though, we haven't been spending real money for a while. We have no free lunch, so we have 3 more credits than we think we do.
Yeah, all that bad publicity isn't going to help to survive a punitive, unfortunately.
And you have to land double punitive. If you install a class act here, you're laughing. It comes down for free. It draws 4 cards.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is if you install Class Act, then yeah, checking R&D first. Because installing the Class Act to survive the punitive and then losing off R&D would feel so bad.
Yeah, that's very true. If you win the game too, you don't have to worry about punitive. It does not follow you.
Just win the game.
Now we'll see here. Just a single access off the top of the deck. This is a fresh card. Odol did break lock last turn. Hedge fund. Just more money.
Another one.
One more deeper. Looked like ice.
So now do you install the Class Act just to make sure that you don't die?
If you have it, we haven't seen one. There's a couple in the list. There's 3 in the list.
It's a full hand. Amakua is getting pretty large now. Is at 5. So it's nearly at the point where you can start breaking the chunky ice.
Yeah, 6 gets you through everything in the list. We'll see if there's a Class Act here. Otherwise, money up is good again. After the first, there you go for free. Oh, it's not for free. Excuse me. She's a connection. So you actually have to pay out of the pocket. Still, I think you're pretty happy here. You're up to 8 cards in hand is what I'd guess. And with 8 cards, that's a triple punitive. That is just not possible.
I think he had a full hand, so he'll actually be up to 9 cards. Because he had to discard first, I believe. Yeah, I think punitive is definitely out. So now he just has to make sure that R&D stays locked.
I think we used Paladin. I don't think you're able to do that. Unless we're trashing the no free lunch to keep the Paladin, but then Paladin would be clear. Yeah, no, this is to tree the Paladin, yes. So Paladin had 4. The cost is to trash an installed card on the table if you can't get the Paladin below 3.
Sad to see that cute little otter go, but it makes sense. Like, has
bigger
things on his mind right now.
So the important thing here now is the twinning is entirely attached to, I was going to say entirely attached to Mystic, but you have the Chesva. So basically every single central run, you're guaranteed to see 2 cards. It's actually fine. I think if Mystic, if she leaves, you're in an okay spot. Ice on HQ, I don't think we're seeing a punitive. Or sorry, on R&D, we're definitely not seeing a punitive here. Class Act, again, that's how you play around these punitive lists if you have that real heads-up thinking.
But yeah, with that Amaku at 5, probably... Does he charge it up somewhere and then try? Well, to try to
I don't
like
think
get up
with 7 bad, do you need to? It'll happen if it
Probably
happens.
Not.
But even there, and you're not spending a lot of real money on this R&D run. What's the worst case of the outermost ice? Like maybe it's a data ward. I think that's probably data ward's interesting. Or sorry, data loop is interesting because if you want to charge your Kurapir, you have to break all the subroutines. You don't always break all the subroutines on that ice, but another trebuchet. I don't think I've seen 8 bad publicity in a while. It's very much worth noting in original Netrunner. If you ever took 7 bad publicity, the runner just won.
Is that so?
That's so. Yeah.
I would have seen so many game losses by this point.
So we're 8 in. Again, this thing does cost. You'd love to see that 6 cost. The 6 strength Amakua just rolls through the server, but we're going to have to do a bit more math.
It costs... Echelon is at 3 strength currently.
I think 4 because we have the turtle as well.
Oh, it's at 4. Yeah, so that costs. You still have to boost for 3.
Yeah, it's 4 apiece. Just a drafter.
It's 5 apiece.
Oh,
right?
5 apiece. Yeah. Boost for 3.
So 10 credits just get past the 2 trebuchets, but then we have 8 bad publicity, but one of them doesn't count.
And coffee here. We'll see if we see 2 cards. I don't know if Odol drew last turn again. Breaking lock, drawing a lot is actually one of the scariest things. Because again, we're only 1 red cap away. That's a hostile, only at 6 points. No relevant bounce here. Archives is open. You can go check that. You will purge your Amakua back, but we're seeing another card here. That's a too big to fail.
Really expensive to trash and doesn't want to.
Yeah, that is a pretty dead draw there for Odol. Now, Odol has ways out here. You're going to need some burst draw. A spin doctor on the table is actually very interesting because you can break and get burst draw. We haven't seen any doctor show up so far.
And actually, you love to give the outfit an operation here because you don't want them to get an agenda off the top.
Just farming Kurapira. The threat here, data loop. Again, res for second. We're going HQ for a single. 6 cards in hand after the bounce. So one of that is the ice on archives. Single here.
This is one of those times where you might have wanted not to bounce, but you
it's
can.
Mando, yeah.
It's Mando.
Access the punitive.
Not relevant anymore.
That old card from, I want to say the first cycle. Is it a Genesis card? Maybe it's the spin cycle.
It's old.
It's old, but hey, keeping Trace relevant.
It's older than most of our Netrunner careers.
Kurapia charging up. We're going back again. I don't think this actually costs real money, so you're just gaining advantage. You're pushing yourself forward by charging up that Kurapira Fractor. And that's a hostile. Good game. Cable pulling it back on the last turn. That homemade legwork pulling the last copy. If Odol had that survived the multi-axis, that was game, but well played to both players. cableCarnage is going to go on to the finals to play against Sokka. Odol, what a run in the top. Again, 257 players down to 3, and Odol, 3rd place at Worlds. Really well done, and with such a unique deck.
What an incredible matchup to see. What an exciting game.
Yeah, razor thin margins there at the end. Really well played to both players. So now we have Sokka versus Cable again. Cable, we don't know which matchup will start up soon. We'll let you know as soon as we do know. But again, we've seen Sokka once on stream before, and it's another Wayland matchup that is, I think, a bit less charitable into some criminals. We see some program destruction, SDS drone deployment. Again, these programs are irreplaceable. They're incredibly valuable, so excited to see how that goes. And again, Cable has to bring back 2 games in a row, but if anybody can do it, he definitely can. We're going to be back in just a moment with the finals of the Netrunner World 2023 Championships here in Barcelona. Captain Nice, thanks so much for joining me.
I was so excited to be here.
Glad to have you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
See ya.